I'm glad to be back with you guys today. I feel like the message I have is kind of like a culmination of what I've been led to speak about. And it's a topic that's been really near and dear to my heart. And the subject is from probably who most would revere as the most important person ever in the world, and that's Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? And so I know we all have, when you say that, it's a very complicated name because we all have our ideas of who Jesus is, who he was, what he did, why, and more importantly, why he did it, right? And so the truth is that he is even revered amongst in Judaism today. He's mentioned many times in the Quran, and then of course Christians in the Bible, right? I think the metaphysical concept of Jesus, we also revere him, but as it says in our principles, it says that we see Christ consciousness, right, as the mediator between God and humanity. And so what is Christ consciousness? And if Jesus had Christ consciousness, if that's why we call him the Christ, how did he become that? How did he obtain that? How did he become who he was? Well, so obviously I've always thought like, well, wouldn't it be cool to actually like hear from Jesus himself, right?
Yeah.
Instead of all of this playing telephone through the third person narrative and stuff. And so in my spiritual studies, I found a YouTube channel called Given Voice to the Wisdom of the Ages, which is awesome. And all the narrator, he's got a great voice and he just reads spiritual books. And so he did an interview and he talked about the one that has had the biggest impact on him. And it's called, it's actually created from a man who channeled Christ, Jesus Christ, the Christ consciousness. And there's a whole series, and they even started, I guess, I don't want to call it a religion, but definitely like a belief system on these teachings. And there's a lot of them. And they're all called the way of mastery, the way of mastery. And so each one is written as a lesson. And so you're supposed to read each lesson, or you could listen to an audiobook, and then you're supposed to listen to that same lesson for a month before you go to the next one. But in these series, there is one lesson that is revered as like the most important and like the most amazing one. And I listened to it and it definitely was incredible. And to say that I've listened to it 70 times since then is not exaggerating. I try to listen to it every single day, because not just that it's good, but I've never found a spiritual teaching so powerful. I've never found one where I'm like, wow, this is it. This is it. Like, this is the path. This is the way. And before I get there, because I'm gonna read a lot of it, because I want you to know that this is from Jesus's mouth. I don't want to put words in his mouth, obviously. And even if you don't believe that, or even if it's hard for you to believe that, like in conversations with God, God says, even if you don't believe that this is coming from me, read this, listen to this, and ask yourself, is there a better way to live? Is there a better path? If my path is to awaken, is there a better way? Then go ahead and do that. Disregard everything I say. Don't believe what I say. This isn't a belief system. And you don't even have to believe that it came from Jesus, but listen to the words with your heart and see if it's impacts you in a way where you just know, like, wow, this is real and this is true. And this is the path. Now, regardless of what you believe about Jesus's crucifixion, I think we all are amazed by what happened. And in the book, he talks about what he prayed for was a way to overcome the world. He prayed for a way to overcome the world. What does that mean? What's the world? Well, the world is everything that heaven is not, right? It's everything that the spirit is not. And the spirit is unconditional love, right? That's the true nature of things. The world is the opposite. It's a duality. We can only experience unconditional love and the opposite of it, right? So Jesus came here to show us and to experience everything that this world has to offer, and to face it with unconditional love, right? Think about it. Even in his agony, Jesus' concern was for the forgiveness of those who counted themselves amongst his enemies. He asked the Father to forgive the thieves on the cross who jeered at him. He asked the Father to forgive the Roman soldiers that mocked him. He asked the Father to forgive the Roman soldiers who mocked him, who spit on him, to beat him, yanked out his beard, whipped him, put a crown of thorns on his head, nailed him to a cross. Jesus dealt with betrayal from his own disciple, denial of him by several of his others. Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. What else could a man encounter? What other pains does this world have to offer? And through that, Jesus asked for forgiveness for those people. And that's just incredible. That's the part that always brings a tear to my eye when I watch it, or if I watch the movie, or if I read about it. It's the fact that he just was unconditional love through all of it. He even prayed for the people who tortured him and mocked him and beat him. Wow, what an example, right? So in this, this is by the way, this is called, the series is called The Way of Mastery, but this particular one is called The Way of the Heart. The Way of the Heart. And I love that, The Way of the Heart. And this is actually lesson 3. So lesson 3, The Way of the Heart. So just to set the stage, Jesus talks about in this that he was actually an Essene. He was a member of the Essenes, and Essenes were they were like a sect. They weren't quite Jews, but they lived outside of Jerusalem, and they were kind of like renunciates. They kind of lived a life in caves, and they just lived a life devoted to learning about God and the universe. But there was more of a spiritual, God was inside. It was an inner thing to them. And so according to Jesus, he was a part of this Essenic community who did study, the Old Testament and, and Judaism as well, but other practices as well on top of that. He talked about at the age of 9, he really started to question the tradition of the Jewish and the Essenic traditions. And he started being compelled by the old teachers, he said, who spoke of the need to forgive 70 times 7. And he says that he began to kind of see through the teachings of even the Essenes, because by then it was filled with a lot of dogma. And he says what dogma does is it causes bickering, and it causes misunderstanding, it causes misinterpretation. So what he started daydreaming about is how do I perceive my brothers and my sisters in the way that God does? How can I see my brothers and sisters in the light that God does through perfect love? And then he began to see things, he began to get impressions. And again, he was really attracted by the old teachers who spoke of this need to forgive 70 times 7 and understand the validity to it. And then he talks about what this means. So he says, so you see, to forgive means to choose to release another from the perceptions that you have been projecting upon them. It is therefore an act of forgiving oneself of one's projections. And as we begin to forgive even unto 70 times 7, each time you forgive, you take yourself deeper into the purity of your own consciousness. You begin to see how profoundly you have been coloring and therefore affecting all of your relationships through the simple act of not being aware of the power of projection. Therefore, I learned well that forgiveness is an essential key to healing. The opposite of forgiveness is judgment. And judgment always creates separation and guilt. Judgment will evoke a sense of guilt in the one who has been judged, unless, of course, they are perfectly awake. But more than this, each time that you judge anything or anyone, you have literally elicited guilt within yourself. Because there is a place within you, yet still, that knows the perfect purity of your brother and sister and sees quite clearly that all things within the human realm are either the extension of love or a cry for help and healing. There's going to be parts that I like to repeat because I think those are the most important parts. All things within the human realm are either the extension of love or a cry for help and healing. Therefore, beloved friends, when you judge, you have moved out of alignment with which that is true. You have decreed that the innocent are not innocent. And if you would judge another as being without innocence, you have already declared that this is true about you. Therefore, to practice forgiveness actually cultivates the quality of consciousness in which finally you come to forgive yourself. And it is indeed the forgiven who remember their God. We would speak also in this hour of what perception is and what projection is. Beloved friends, these things are of critical importance. For anyone who enters into a so-called spiritual path must eventually face and deal with their deep need for forgiveness, which is an expression of the soul's deep desire to be forgiven. For there is no one who walks this plane who has not been touched by the poison of judgment. In truth, understand well, forgiveness is essential. And what has not been forgiven others has not been forgiven you. Not by a God that sits outside of you, for the Father never judges. What you have not forgiven in another or in the world is but a reflection of what you carry within as a burden that you cannot forgive of yourself. I want to say that again. What you have not forgiven in another or in the world is but a reflection of what you carry within as a burden that you cannot forgive of yourself. You have an interesting saying in your world, it takes one to know one. Do you think you would even be able to judge another if there wasn't something within you being elicited that triggers within you the belief that you know exactly what the other is up to? And that's why you judge him. And sometimes you judge harshly because you fear that energy in yourself. Or you remember how hurtful you have been when you have acted from that energy. But when you have forgiven yourself, rest assured, you will know what it means to walk in this world, but yet not be of this world. And in all situations, no matter what another is doing, your first response will be to enter into the quiet stillness within and merely ask the Holy Spirit, what would you have me say? What is most appropriate for this other soul in this moment? For when forgiveness has purified the mind and the heart and the emotional field of your beingness, you will discover that you exist only to extend love. So even if one is hating you, you will not respond with defensiveness, but with curiosity, with innocent witnessing. And even if your hands have nails going through them, and I tell you truthfully, it is possible to still enter the quiet sanctuary of the heart and ask of the Holy Spirit, what would you have me say or do that can serve the healing of my brother or sister's heart? So in this way, not just in this hour, but in this year, have this as your final goal, your complete Christed consciousness, the fulfillment of what your own soul desires, forgiveness. There is first nothing you can be aware of in the energy of another that you have not known in yourself. There is nothing another can say or do or even imagine themselves capable of doing that you have not also known. Again, it takes one to know one. And when you perceive another acting out of hostility or fear or what have you, the only way you can recognize it is because you have been there. Who then is less than you? No one. Who then is worthy of your judgment? No one. Who then is equal to you? Everyone. Who then is worthy of your love? Everyone. Forgiveness is the bridge that links you to the soul, the essence of your brothers and sisters. Forgiveness is the bridge that, when cultivated, will allow you to see clearly, and not just the energy that is being expressed, but you will literally be able to see what events seem to cultivate that soul's belief that they must act in a certain way to survive, to live. What perceptions have led them to feel justified in their inappropriate behavior? You will see it as clearly as though someone had drawn a picture in front of you. And then you will see skillfully what to say and what to do to gently help another correct their misconceptions of themselves and learn the path of self-forgiveness. And when the hour comes, rest assured, you will walk in this world, yet you will not be in it. You will be as I became. You will be the savior of the world. What is projection? Projection occurs when there has first been denial within yourself. Projection is an act in which you physically try and throw out your ownership of everything that you have judged that has been despicable or unworthy of you. Something you don't want, and so you will project it. You will throw it up and out and let it land on whomever happens to be nearby. Projection is the effect of the denial of the first axiom that we have given you. It is denial of the truth. So what is the first axiom? It is nothing you experience has been caused by anything outside of you. So projection is the effect of the denial of the first axiom. It is the denial of the truth, that nothing you experience has been caused by anything outside of you. Projection then is an attempt to insist that reality is other than the way God made it, that you are not powerful, that you are a victim of circumstance, that you are in a world that can actually do things to you and cause you to make decisions that you wouldn't have made otherwise. That is always a denial, and it is a lie. Projection is a denial of the first axiom of truth, and you've mastered it well. When you project onto another, you will then believe that your anger, your hatred is justified. Projection colors your brother or sister with the very energy that you would judge within yourself. How then to break the pattern of projection? How then to allow the bridge of forgiveness to be built? It is actually quite simple, but it will require your commitment. That's sidebar. That's why I've listened to this message 70 times, right? Every time I listen to it, it becomes a little more ingrained in who I am and the way I see the world and my ability to do this, but it's hard because I have 43 years of operating from my ego, right? So let me just tell you, like, you will judge people 100 times a day, most of the times without even knowing it, but boy, the more you listen to this and the more you make this a part of your soul, your consciousness, the easier it becomes. But let me get back to Jesus, who's smarter than I am. All right. Okay. It will require your commitment. I have said to you many times that the world you see is nothing more than the effect of the thoughts you have held within the mind. Therefore, awakening requires the act of vigilance and discipline. The discipline to cultivate a way of living in which you observe your own thoughts, in which you listen to the words that are coming out of your mouth, in which you observe the feelings that are evoked within your body, the reactivity that seems to own you, and to see these things as innocent and simply self-caused. What next then? Something is reflected to you by the world that caused you to become angry, causes you to be in judgment. Stop right where you are and look, not with the judgment of your judgment, but with innocence and honesty. Oh, I see that I am judging someone. That's an interesting cloud passing through the sky of my awareness. I wonder if I might be able to make another choice now. The mind will tell you, but this person just broke into my house and stole my stereo. Of course I have a right to be in judgment. I have a right to feel angry. But I say unto you, Anger is never justified. It doesn't mean you won't experience it. That's a big one right there. That's the self-acceptance in reality. You'll still experience it. You're human, right? So it doesn't mean you won't experience it, but stop fooling yourself into believing that there is some validity to it. What if that one who has just broken into your home and taken your stereo equipment, or what have you, some other idol that you love? What if you understand that you had the power in that moment to remember that all events are neutral? They merely provide you with a chance to choose love. What if you literally chose the insane way, according to the world, of looking upon that one who has just done the act as a brother or sister who's crying out for help and healing?
Yeah, that's powerful.
Remember, going back, everything is either an extension of love or a cry for help and healing, right? Who does not know how to live in this world without being of the world? We're talking about the person who committed that act, right? The person who does not know the way to self-forgiveness, that does not know the truth of the light that lives within them, that does not recognize their great power to create whatever they want in a way that is not hurtful to anyone, to look upon them with compassion rather than reactivity. It begins in simple ways. And to set the stage, I want you to very much remember that time has been given to you that you might use it constructively. That means when you awaken in the morning, realize that you are in school. You don't have to drive anywhere. You're already there. And that the universe is literally helping to assist you into having experiences that bring things up for you so that you can choose to look at them differently, thereby discovering the great power within you, the freedom within you to choose what you want to perceive, to elicit only what you want to feel. So again, that even if nails are being driven through your hands, you finally are liberated in the power to choose love and therefore to overcome the world. Isn't that beautiful?
Powerful.
Yeah, what that Jesus could do that.
Yeah.
Wow. Having said this, understand then that each of your days is a blessing and a gift. And if you use from the full commitment to awakening, your day is chock full of a million opportunities to discover a deeper truth. Therefore, never feel that the purpose of your life must be something other than what you're involved in. I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're involved in is the purpose of your life, right?
Yeah.
Each moment.
Yeah.
What am I doing right now? How can I choose love?
Exactly.
Right? You are literally creating everything you choose, and nothing is forced upon you. It literally means that if you have decided you want to awaken, it means you have already called to yourself every experience that can truly best serve your awakening. The friends, the family, the people you have relationships with are those who likewise can best gain from the experience elicited through your relationship. It means it right here, right now, you are already demonstrating the power that you are seeking, the power to truly choose and to awaken, and to command the whole of creation to serve you in that awakening. The universe is conspiring with you to awaken you, to heal you. Trust it, love it. If these things are true, and I assure you that they are, it means that your life, the very life you are living, is equal in the power and majesty and effectiveness of any life that has ever been lived. It means that your very life is equal to the one that I lived, for it is bringing you home, as my life was my pathway home to God. If you ever want to come home, you're going to have to become very, very divinely selfish. You're going to have to become so selfish that you will not tolerate judgment in yourself of anyone or anything.
Right.
because you will begin to recognize that every little act catapults you to the other side of the universe from where you want to be. It causes the very cellular structure. And if you could see this, you would never judge again. When you judge, even the cells of your body go crazy. They vibrate in a completely dissonant way, and there is contraction. The foods do not move to the cells. The nutrients do not become transported or delivered to the cell. The waste matter isn't processed properly. Everything gets clogged up, and there is dis-ease. Therefore, beloved friends, understand well that judgment is not something to take lightly. So therefore, count it as a blessing if you feel disturbed. Turn your awareness from what you think is causing the disturbance and remember the first axiom. I am the source of my experience. I'm feeling disturbed. What is it in me that needs to be healed? Begin to breathe deeply with the body and rhythmically. Let the body soften and relax and ask, what is it within this person's energy that is really pushing my buttons? And you will see it right away. I'm altering this part a little bit to make it more relevant to me. He says, oh, they are so critical. I'm gonna change it to manipulative because I don't like manipulative people. It's what pushes my buttons, okay? So I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah.
Ready? You will see it right away. Oh, they are so manipulative. Manipulation pushes my buttons. Where have I been manipulative of others? And it might hit you right away. Or the memories will come back to stage. Distasteful memories of you judging them. Let them come back. Continue to breathe and relax. Look upon the energy of being manipulative. Honor it. Love it, for it is a creation. It is your creation coming back to you, that you might embrace them and transform them. And in that example, just stay with it. Look at it. Being manipulative. Yes, I can sure be manipulative. I've been that way in the past. I know that energy very well. Look upon a scene in your memory in which you have been the one being manipulative. Look upon it with deep honesty and sincerity and say to yourself, I forgive me for being manipulative. I forgive my judgment of myself. I choose to teach only love. So you see, you may not know how powerful your choice for healing is. You may not really see how deeply and profoundly it will affect you as you go on being a creator and you go on forever. And you can never possibly know what fruits will be born from that tree in the life of another. But because all minds are joined, when you choose healing through forgiveness, you literally create the space in which the other can also heal their life. Let no moment then be wasted. See nothing as ordinary, and see not the perceptions taught to you of the world be justified within yourself, but be you who wholly committed to rooting up and out of your being anything that is unlike the love of Christ. Think not that I am the only one that can love this way. It is not true. You are here to love as I learned to love. Why? Because you are that love, and everything else is just a smokescreen. Forgiveness is necessary. Forgiveness is a skill and an art that will pay you dividend upon dividend upon dividend upon dividend. It will never cease in paying you. And I love this part because it gave me goosebumps when I heard him say it. He says, in each moment in which you choose forgiveness, you have literally saved yourself 1,000 years of suffering.
Oh, yeah.
Each moment in which you choose forgiveness, you have literally saved yourself 1,000 years of suffering. He even says, whoa. And I mean that about as literally as one can mean it. In short, every act of forgiveness is a miracle that shortens the need for experience in this dimension. And when you find yourself in a situation that you believe is too big, rest assured, it is become It is because something big has finally come to the surface to be healed within you. So more power can shine forth through you because you have reached the place where you are ready for it. More of Christ can be lived. So I'm going to end with a prayer that you're going to help me do. And I love this. So I begin to, as I listen to this, I've made a strange connection that I absolutely love, so I got to share it. If you're a Star Wars nerd at all, there is a show called The Mandalorian.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, The Mandalorian's amazing. They're like a sect of bounty hunters, right? Now, they live by a certain code. It's called the Way of the Mandalore, right? And so when they like ask a question about what to do, like somebody will answer it and then they'll say, this is the way. And then the person receiving it says, this is the way. You know, and I like that. Like they have a code that they live by, which I think is great. And the more that I watched, the more that I listened to this, and I realized that like this is the way, you know, like this is the way to awakening, the way of heart, the way of the heart. This is the way to awaken. This is the way that you become like Christ. Is it an easy way? No, but it is the way. And so what I want to end with is I'm going to say a line of the prayer, and then I want you to say that line. And then I'm just going to say, this is the way. And then I'll do the next line and you repeat it. And then I'm going to say, this is the way. So on and so on and so on. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Every person I encounter is a mirror to what's inside of me.
Every person that I encounter is a mirror.
This is the way.
Okay.
I recognize the gift that every person brings me, the chance to awaken.
I recognize the gift that every person brings me the chance to awaken.
This is the way. What bothers me about another is what I reject in myself.
What
bothers me in others is what I reject in myself.
This is the way. I know that judgment is the opposite of forgiveness.
I know that judgment is the opposite of forgiveness.
This is the way. To judge others is to judge myself.
To judge others is to judge myself.
This is the way. To forgive the other is to forgive myself.
To forgive the other is to forgive myself.
This is the way. I choose only to see the light in others.
I choose only to see the light in others.
This is the way. I choose only to see the light in myself.
I choose only to see the light in myself.
I forgive 70 times 7.
I forgive 70 times 7.
This is the way. And the last one is, the way of the heart is the path to Christ.
The way of the heart is the path to Christ.
This is the way.
I like that. I like
You never
that.
say the author's name.
Oh, I don't, because it was a channeled message, just as it was written in a book, but again, it's read as an audiobook. So you can get the book, you can get the audiobook. It's called The Way of Heart. This one's lesson 3. The Way of Mastery, The Way of the Heart.
It sounds like Sufism.
Given voice
Yeah.
to the wisdom of the ages.
That's the site that reads it,
Yeah,
that will read
there
it
you
for
go.
you.
You got
So,
it.
so thank you.
That's Sufism.
Yeah, let us
That
walk.
was powerful.
Let us
Nolan. That
walk
was
the way.
powerful.
Yeah. Huh? All right. Much love.
Yes.
Yay.